We'll start with an introduction of descriptive statistics. When we describe a dataset, we often talk about its shape, center, and spread. When we talk about a shape, we're talking about how the frequency distribution looks. If you look at the first example we have here in red, this is what we would call symmetric. The reason why we say that this is symmetric is if you draw a line down the middle, it's roughly the same on both the left and the right hand side. Moving along, we can see that the next one is what we call uniform, where everything occurs at the same frequency. The last two are what we call skewed. The first one is skewed left. You can see it's been shifted from the left over. And the second one is referred to as skewed right. It's been shifted over from the right. The next thing that we talk about, other than the shape, is the center. There are three different things that we talk about when we're talking about the center of a data set, and we often refer to this as the measure of central tendency. The first one is the mean, which you may also refer to as the average. The second one is the median, which is also known as the middle. And the last one is the mode, which is the data value that occurs most often. Lastly, when we talk about data sets, we may talk about the spread, or how far apart our data values are. In these two data sets that we see here, you can see that the data values in the first set, outlined in red, are much closer together than the values in the black set, which range from 10 to 50 versus 1 to 5. To elaborate more on measures of central tendency, we'll start with the mean. Remember, the mean is the average. So to find the mean, all we do is we take our 5 given values that we have here, we add them up, and then we divide by 5, which is the total number of data entries that we have. When we add this up, we will get 25 over 5, which is equal to 5. So our mean or average value in this data set would be 5. Notice here in this new data set I've added just one value, but it's very different from all the others. It's much larger. This is what we would refer to as an outlier. Also notice that as we find the mean, this drastically changes our value, making it instead 9. This is why we say that often the mean is not a resistant or resilient measure of central tendency. Outliers can very easily influence what the mean is. The median is another measure of central tendency. In order to find the median, we first must put the set in order, and then we can find the middle of the set. I like to do this by crossing off the last and the first entries over and over until I finally reach the middle and find that the median in this case is also 5. It is worth noting that when we have an even number of data values, we still again work our way from the outside, find our middle two data values and find the mean of those two. In this case, 5 plus 6 is going to give us 11, divided by 2 is 5.5. Note here that, again, with the addition of the outlier of 29, it did impact our median, but not nearly as drastically as the mean was affected. Lastly, the mode can be used to represent a measure of center, most often just because it represents the data value that occurs the most often. In our first data set here in red, you can see that none of the data values repeat, and so we would say that there is no mode. In the second data set, you can see that 4 repeats 3 times, which is more than any others which don't repeat at all. And so in this one, we would say that our mode is 3. In the last one, we can see that 4 repeat... Oh, I apologize. Meant to say 4 here. In the last one, we can see that 4 and 7 both repeat the same number of times. And so in this case, our modes would be 4 and 7.